I'm going to tell you something. If you two ever bother me again the rest of my life, I ain't giving up that shit. I can't. There's good friends of mine out in the fucking place. Well, he's divorced, we have to do his cousin. That's why I said to you before, you don't understand what the man says. The rest of me is that the boss is your boss.
And welcome to Mob Talk Radio. I am your host, Jeff Canarsie. Don't know how many people we're going to get because for some reason the StreamYard thing still isn't working, so we're just going to go with it. I'd like to welcome everybody to the show, and we're going to be talking about some JFK stuff tonight. There's a little news to go over, and there's sort of a statement I want to make at the very beginning of this, but I'm going to go through the chat and see how everybody is doing first, see who's in here. Terrell, how you doing, buddy? Penn State guys in the house. Andrea is in the house. The Sicilian Syndicate is in the house per the usual. And that seems to be everybody that's in here. That's insane to me, but it is what it is. Okay, here we go. Everybody's starting to filter in now. We're going to get to that today, Rebecca. Hi, Stacy. How are you? All right, so I guess the first thing to do is to go into something that I just kind of want to say real quick, only because, you know, I'm a part of a community of people that cover organized crime. Okay. And there's a lot of us but the problem I think is I continue to hear people that are not even involved in the mob genre say they're in the mob genre. The mob genre is talking specifically about organized crime, and that's all you do. There's no drama to it. There's drama, don't get me wrong, but there's no like doxing and all. So anybody that tells you they're in the mob drama, or the mob genre, and they don't cover anything organized crime, they're not in the mob genre. And those are just the facts. I think a lot of people try to put mob genre people into this mob tube shit. And there's glowing differences between the two genres. And I get a little tired of people trying to lop everybody into sort of the same category. What I do is work for a living. And that's what I do. I can't speak for everybody. But I think that if you're not covering organized crime, don't call yourself a part of the mob genre. And that's what's really happened to our genre. When I came along a decade ago, I was the only one. It really wasn't until the pandemic that all of these people started coming out of the woodwork. And so for a decade, I was pretty much on my own doing this kind of stuff. And it just seems like it morphed from me doing what I'm doing right now into like something completely just insane to me. And I think I talk to a lot of people that are in business and stuff like that. And the question to me always is, do you think that the genre is oversaturated? And I think, yes, I think this genre has become saturated, but I think it's become saturated with people who don't know what they're doing or talking about. And that's the problem. The problem is that the consumption and what people take in, like, I don't know about anybody here, but I know that when I'm bored or I just want to sleep and I throw on a YouTube documentary on a serial killer, I don't really give a shit if it's really accurate or not, because it's just sort of fodder for my ears to relax, right? But if it's something I'm interested in and it's totally wrong from beginning to end, that's when I sort of say, wait a minute here. And if my job was writing books on serial killers and I saw YouTube documentaries that were completely inaccurate like that, it would drive me batshit crazy. And that's one of the things that drives me crazy about this genre, is because you have, and I'm just being honest, I think out of all of the mob genre on YouTube, there's only 3 of us that do any research. There's only 3. It doesn't matter what 3 I think they are, but there's only 3 of us that do it. And you guys know the ones who do research and the ones who don't. It's way too easy to read Wikipedia. It's way too easy to read a book. It's way too easy to grab a headline out of the paper and just roll with it. It's very easy to in my opinion, be a fucking rat and start naming ranks and files and who's doing what. And majority of the time, they're 100% wrong. They're 100% wrong. And so from my perspective, I wish people would just stop saying they're in a genre that they're not in. You are in the Jerry Springer bullshit, fucking childish genre. And I'm not saying that nobody has the right to defend themselves, because you do. You have an absolute right to fight back. I'm not saying that. But just stop claiming you're in the mob genre, because you're not. I don't want to be associated with any of that shit. None of it. I think there's a big difference between what I do and what these other people do, and it is what it is. But I just wanted to bring that up because, once again, earlier today, somebody sent me a bunch of clips of people who are not in this genre saying they're in the mob genre. I just don't understand it. And I don't want to be associated with that other genre of stuff that goes on. Just because I went through that 10 years on my own without anybody defending me. I fought all the battles by myself. I went through crap a lot of people haven't, but then there's been crap that's happened to people that hasn't happened to me, but I just don't want any part of that. And so I think what's happened to the genre is it gets oversaturated with anybody who thinks they know anything can say anything, but they're not backing that up with anything substantial as far as facts or acumen or knowledge. It's just sort of kind of like, well, I read this book and I'm going to regurgitate it to you and make that seem as if I knew. And that's the reality. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care how many views and how many subs these people buy. They just don't have knowledge. And there's really only two people, I'm going to be very honest, who I think at the end of the day are on my level and above me. And that's RJ Rogers and that's Jacob Stoops. Those are the only two. Everybody else, like, forget it. I don't even think about them. And that's not to say that other people aren't good at what they do, but there is a difference between being good at what you do and then just regurgitating everything you read. And that's just, from my perspective, I do things a little differently. But in my personal opinion, RJ and Jacob Stoops are far better at this than I am. But I think we're all equally the same. And I think, honestly, a lot of people don't like Tom LaVecchia, but I think Tom LaVecchia is at the top too. He knows what he's talking about. He understands certain things, but everybody else is just, jumping on a train as far as I'm concerned. And that's not to demean anybody, but that's just where I see it. And you have to remember, I've been here a decade. It's not like I just walked on this, plot of earth a week ago. I've been here a decade and I know who's good and who isn't. But to each their own. Some people don't like me and some people like other people. It's just how it is. But just, if you're not in the mob genre, stop claiming you are, because that insults me, because I don't want to be attached to that shit. That's just me. That's just me. And that's not a shot at anybody. It's just an overall thing. I just don't want to be associated with it. Anyway, you and RJ are the only ones I'll watch. I don't blame you. And that's the thing. I don't even really watch mob content. I really don't. That was my point. You can get 100. You can get someone harmed making up lies and nonsense. That's the huge issue I have with it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I made a choice a long time ago that I would never talk about anything current unless it had to do with an indictment or unless I had certain permission to talk about certain kind of things. I won't do it. If I chose to interview rats, if I chose to talk about current shit, I'd be the biggest thing on YouTube. Nobody would be able to come near me. But I made a conscious choice to have some morals. And I made a conscious choice, which handicapped me in sort of the long term of making money, because I just refuse to do certain things. I have standards these people don't. And that's just the truth. And I can't tell you how many times that I have been with people that you might have heard about who laugh about what these people say because they know it's just total nonsense. But it is what it is. To each their own. It's like a good soup. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people like jazz, some people don't. So in other words, from my point of view, I don't care what anybody else does. It's about what I do. But I think that viewers just sometimes want to be entertained versus taking in knowledge. And that's the problem, because when you start to manipulate history, that's where it sort of gets into a gray area with me. But like I said, I don't care. Let them say what they want. If people want to be lied to and fooled, that's their prerogative. I'm not going to fight with anybody about it. Anyway, the truth will set you free. Oh, usually does. Usually does. Let's see. Hey, Jeff, listening from Cork, Ireland. I have relatives in Cork. So the Irish side of my family, the Sullivans and the Foleys, are from Cork, and from Belfast. That's kind of cool. Very, very, very cool. And I probably shouldn't have said that because now everybody's going to try to look up a genealogy tree on me. But yes, Sullivans and the Foleys on my Irish side. So there you go. So let's see. The one thing I want to get to, and we are going to do a Q&A today. I am going to drop the link at some point. And we're going to get into this, excuse me, JFK stuff. But I want to talk about this first. I don't know if you guys saw this in the news. But there were 180 members of Cosa Nostra that were arrested in Italy. 50 kilos of cocaine, I believe, was seized. Let me see if I can pull up this photo really quick. Give me 1 second. And I'm going to tell you why this is different than every other arrest we've seen in the last couple of years. Okay. All right. So there you have it. It says historic blow to Sicilian mafia after more than 180 arrests by Italian police. Now, these arrests all took place in Sicily, in and around Sicily, Palermo, Corleone. But here's the difference. That is a lot of people, especially in terms of Cosa Nostra. What is more interesting than this was that there was not sort of an asset seizure, but here's the big thing. They arrested several bosses. That's big, but not as big as what I'm about to tell you. While they were doing this, they had obviously some informants that were giving them some information on what was going on, and they had wiretaps. These wiretaps are insane, and this is what's sort of going to take us into sort of a topic, is that a lot of people continue to say that the mob is dead. Number one, the mafia is not dead. You're never going to eradicate the mafia on any level as long as illegal bookmaking and shylocking goes on. Those are just facts. But 'Ndrangheta, the Calabrian-based organized crime group, is bigger than any other organized crime group in the United States, or excuse me, not the United States, but the world. And one of the more interesting things is on these wiretaps, Sicilian gangsters were complaining that 'Ndrangheta has overwhelmed them and taken all of their business away. In one particular wiretap, there was a boss that said, back 20 years ago, if I could order a kilo of hash, it wouldn't just be a kilo, it would be like tons of hash. Now all I can get my hands on is a kilo. And what it's showing is that Cosa Nostra in Sicily is now almost subservient to doing business with 'Ndrangheta because 'Ndrangheta has completely and utterly taken over the drug rackets. And so what does this mean? Well, what it means to me is that they don't have the power that they used to in Sicily, number one. And number two, that's the other thing about these arrests. Every arrest prior to this that we've seen in the last decade always included some politicians, some seedy government officials. There are none in this. There are also no murders attached to this, which is another thing we don't often see. And that almost sort of, I don't want to say flows back to the United States, but if you look at the way that organized crime is operating here now, specifically, murder's off the table. It's been off the table for a long time now. It just doesn't happen anymore. And the minute that, 'Ndrangheta starts to claim, Sicilian Cosa Nostra is having a problem. And for them to take a hit like 180 guys, that's massive for them. That would be like 180 guys getting arrested here. All we ever typically see here in New York, especially 10, 15, 20 guys. That's all you really ever, maybe occasionally 30. But 180 would decimate a whole entire crime family here. 180 will not bury the mob in Sicily, but that is huge. That is big. And what's even, like I said, bigger is they've got bosses complaining that the crop coming up underneath of them aren't very intelligent, aren't very smart. These guys all got caught on third-party applications communicating. And this is the one thing I'll never understand about organized crime. Never. Is everybody that fucking lazy that they just can't go and meet in the middle of the graveyard at 2 o'clock in the morning on a rainy night? Why do you pick up your phone and use it? Let me tell you something. All these people that tell you, oh, these apps are all encrypted, but don't believe it. Don't believe it. Now there is a feature on an iPhone, and believe it or not, somebody that works at the iPhone store, her husband, we were just small talking, and she says, "Oh, by the way, you can turn off a certain feature. You can't be tracked at all. Like they can't even pull up where you are, where you went." I said, "Really? How do you know that?" She says, "Well, my ex-husband's an FBI agent," and she went right through my phone and started turning all this shit off. And I'm like, wow. Now I don't know what that says about me that she would offer up that information. But why in the hell does organized crime continue to use phones? I just don't understand it. That is a sure way to get arrested. And so with this news coming out of Sicily, it surprises me. It doesn't surprise me that 180 guys got arrested, but it surprises me that they were so loose-lipped on the phone with belly aching about Andromeda taking over everything. Because if we go back to the days of Toto Reno, Bernardo Provenzano, Matteo Denaro, Messina, and all of that, those guys were juggernauts in and of themselves. If they wanted to kill a politician, it was just that easy. I don't think the Sicilian mafia has that power anymore. And that is a game changer. That is an ultimate game changer. So one of the things that we're going to do tonight is we are going to talk about this.
And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
All right. So one of the things that we are going to talk about, like I said, we are going to do a Q&A as well, is Donald Trump, when he was elected the first time, came out and said that he was going to release files related to the JFK assassination. He said he was going to, but the majority of the files that he did release on the first go around, they weren't as many as he said that they were going to be. And he redacted a lot of stuff, a lot of black lines through everything. And that's where the arrest did not include any of the Inzerillos at all. Zero, none of them. And one of the interesting things about this is that when Trump took office again, he says, "Oh, now we're going to release files." And then once he said that we're going to release the files, he legally, I think, had 15 days to release everything. The problem is they came across, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they found 25,000 or 2,500 additional files they had never seen before that just suddenly showed up. And that's what the holdup is with these files coming out. And so the question becomes a couple of different things. Number one, the first question is are these files going to change anything? And I don't think that they are. And let me tell you why. Donald Trump is very anti-FBI, very anti-CIA. And I think it's very convenient. I think Andrew just said it. It's convenient that these files just suddenly appear. But I don't think Donald Trump is going to release anything that is going to do anything other than sort of point people in a direction to blame the FBI because he wants to get rid of the FBI. And, to each their own as far as that goes. But at the same time, he's also not an idiot. And I think that there could be people that probably aren't alive anymore, but there could be people that are related to other people. It could be a very big fallout. The problem is you put the files aside for just 1 second. Just put them aside. It goes back to a question that Chris asked me last night. Why the hell did the government even keep files on this stuff? I don't know. I got no answer for you. But this paper is not going to change a thing. It's going to be more cloak and dagger conspiratorial, pointing towards the FBI, is some sort of collusion with the government. The problem is, if you look at the people who really were behind the JFK assassination, it was Republicans, okay, and Democrats too. Both of them shared in that. And Trump being a Republican, he's not going to do himself any favors by putting out anything that can be sort of distractionary towards Republicans. And so that's why I think anything that comes out, what's the point? You know what I mean? We're going to see what's going to happen. But I just don't think at the end of the day, these papers are going to prove to be anything. I think it's going to be just more sort of circus train material. It really is. Bobby Kennedy Robert Kennedy Jr. has been on record as saying he believes that the government killed his brother. And I think he's right. I have no problem, I have no problem agreeing with them. I think that they were. So the question that we sort of have to talk about, and we have to answer first, because the title of this show, Trump to release new Kennedy paperwork, mob on edge. First of all, nobody in the mob gives a shit. There's really nobody alive anymore that this could really seriously affect other than the institution of the government itself. However, the question is did organized crime have anything to do with President Kennedy getting killed? And the first thing that we have to say is this. Number one, no. And when I mean no, they didn't hire a shooter. They didn't do any of that crap. They were simply, more than anything, a cleanup crew. That's what I've always believed. Jack Ruby was a gangster. There's no ifs, ands, and buts around it. He ran all the mob clubs for everybody. That was their sort of position on it. Did they want Kennedy dead? I'm sure they did. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But I don't think that they had anything to do with it other than, okay, who cares if what does him being Jewish have anything to do with this? It's people like you that make me fucking sick. I can't stand people that do that kind of shit. He's gone. Anyway. So at the end of the day, not to get off track with that idiot's comments, but Oswald was a patsy. We know all of that. Listen, there's a million different reasons why the government did not want Kennedy around anymore. There's a million reasons why the mob didn't want Kennedy around anymore. And it really starts. And if you haven't listened to our Kennedy series, I'm going to send you there right after this show. Go over to our playlist and just go down to the Kennedy files and listen to those, because those are truly going to sort of point you at the very beginning of this. And a lot of it had to do with Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy could have never have become the magnet that he becomes, the dignitary he becomes, without organized crime. Just like organized crime could never really have a stranglehold on drugs and other rackets without Joe Kennedy. And that's just the truth. They used each other for their own advantage. And when JFK was running for office, he specifically, they didn't think a Catholic could win in Chicago. It was just a lot of people were anti-Catholic back in those days. And so the mob truly needed Chicago, especially like Cicero and some of these other counties, to vote Kennedy in. And so what Joe Kennedy did is he brings in Frank Sinatra and asks Frank Sinatra to talk to Chicago mafia guys and other mob guys to get them on board with this. And that was Sinatra's whole deal, trying to get them sort of on board. And I believe, and like I said, I was not sitting there when these meetings took place, but I believe there were some concessions made that if Kennedy becomes the de facto head of the country, they'll lay off the mob. And what ends up happening is almost the complete opposite of that. Bobby Kennedy just starts assailing gangsters left and right, going after them, making it his personal vendetta. And that was the problem, is that no matter what the mob tried to do, no matter what Joe Kennedy tried to do, no matter what John Kennedy tried to do to get Bobby to calm down, he just wouldn't. He was a law and order type of guy, I guess. And ultimately, that's why organized crime lost their shit. And that's really how all of that started. And as far as Sinatra went, after JFK got killed, he never voted for a Democrat ever again. He switched to the Republicans. So the long end of it is, the reality of it is that there is a million different reasons why John F. Kennedy was killed. And I'm not going to sit here and because I did the Kennedy series and we talked a lot about it, I'm not going to go through all of the ABCs of why it happened and all of this, but I think it's important to talk about what the sort of red herring here is. And the red herring is that was the mob involved? And I think ultimately they were, as far as Jack Ruby goes. I think they were the cleanup crew. And I think that's as simple as that. I don't think they planned it. I don't think they had any planning in it because, and let me tell you why. Because do you know how easy it would have been to turn around and just blame organized crime for the whole thing? That's how simple the FBI and the CIA could have made it. Well, we had the Cuba thing. We don't want the government to know about that. But they could have lied and turned around and said, well, they went rogue and look at what they did. But they didn't. And, that's sort of my thing. Is that sort of leads me away from this idea that organized crime knew about the whole entire thing. I don't think they did. And I don't think we're ever going to find out anything that's contrary to that. And I'm going to be honest with you. The mob doesn't have the capability to do that. Not in this country. They just don't. A lot of people say, oh, Johnny Roselli was an expert marksman. He probably, no. Organizing something, sure. Scheming, sure. But completely doing that, no, not at all. There's just so much from Secret Service detail being pulled off, what is common to be the sort of the way that they do things. Just everything from beginning to end screams government cover up, screams government corruption. The idea that Lee Harvey Oswald fired multiple times in succession from his point of his trajectory is just fucking nonsense. Even when you look at sort of the Warren Commission report and even the autopsy, like normal, I'm trying to keep it somewhat clean. Anytime somebody gets murdered, they measure trajectories. Sometimes you'll see crime scenes with all of these arrows sticking out from here. And they didn't do that with Kennedy. They did nothing like that. And that's just investigation 101. You know what I mean? The fact that they didn't check for powder burns, and there is so much that they did not do that realistically, if you're going to point the finger, it's the government. Because you have to ask yourself a very important question. Who stood the most to gain from that? I mean, honestly, if the mafia kills the president, what are they really gaining? Because if the mob had truly been behind all of that, don't you think the government would have gone at them with everything they ever had? They certainly would have, because they would have been the easy scapegoat. And that's why I think a lot of people are going to blame Lyndon Johnson and other people like that. And other people will bring up Operation Mongoose and all of these other things. Look, I think John F. Kennedy just terrified them. Okay, the government did not want him involved in black affairs. Let's just call it what it is. They did not want him giving equal rights for blacks. That had a lot to do with it. And there was more to it than that. They were very upset about the Cuban thing. There was a multitude of things he was doing they didn't like. They definitely didn't like the space race BS. So there was a lot that went into it. It just wasn't one thing. But the one thing that terrified everybody about Kennedy was his stance with African-American people. And let's just be honest, this country, for the most part, run by the government, has been racist since day one. That's just the truth, whether you like it or not. Are they still like that? 100%. It's the rich white boy club and you ain't in it. That's just how it goes. And so regardless of sort of the machine of how everything went, it was the government. The government had everything to gain. Vietnam being a piss poor disaster that it was, there's just so much that goes into it. You know what I mean? And the government has never been honest with what happened. And they never will. They're never going to. And I don't think that Bobby Kennedy, first of all, I think he's a fucking nut. But I don't think that anybody else was responsible except for organized crime. That's just how I see it. And I don't think you're ever going to find out anything different. I think there's two camps. There are the people that say it was all government and no mob sort of involvement. And then you have the ones that scream that it was all mafia and nobody else. And the mob didn't have that type of power. They just didn't. Anyway, I'm going to go to the chat here. And this is, like I said, guys, this is an open dialogue. I didn't come with like a bunch of boring facts. I just don't want to do that because I think we've all been around long enough to sort of see it for what it is. I don't think it's any secret that they shot at Trump twice. I don't think they're done doing that either. This is just how society is these days, right? They tried it first, didn't they? Or suggested, okay, let me go here. Dallas had the least amount of Secret Service. No, absolutely. And why on God's earth? Why on God's earth are you rolling a president through Dealey Plaza with nobody on, with no snipers on the roofs in a convertible? With a convertible, like just on its hinges, like that dumbfounds me. It dumbfounds me. When you go to the Zapruder film and you watch it slow, he gets shot through the neck first. And then the top of his head blows off like seconds later, which was a close shot. Eddie Truth with Jim Fila. Let's see. Okay, there's a Zapruder from Philly clearly shows JFK got shot from the front and Oswald was behind. Correct. And we've talked about this a lot of times, especially with the trajectory. He gets shot in the throat because you see him reach up and he grabs his throat because he was shot in the throat. And the next thing you know, the top of his head friggin' explodes. So yeah, and I think that they've done a million different sort of tests and nobody has ever been able to reproduce shooting that good. But yet Oswald was that great. Plus the fact that Oswald was in the CIA to begin with, and the government tried to bury that. Come on. You know what I mean? Let's see. December 1961, Joe Kennedy had a stroke that left him incapacitated, unable to speak. That's why he couldn't control Bobby. Well, it was more than that. And I've always listened between all of us in this room tonight. I have always believed that Bobby was the one they should have had the issue with. Joe should have been the one they had the issue with. I think because John could be bent, Bobby couldn't be bent. And I don't think it's really a surprise to anybody that Bobby got shot and killed either. But even his assassination, Sirhan didn't do that. He's another one that got blamed for something. How does Sirhan face him from the front and Bobby Kennedy gets shot in the back 5 times? How do you physically do that? Do you reach around? Like, how does that work? Those are just facts. Let's see. They gain nothing since they try for 100%. The mob's not going to gain anything from that. Nothing financially, nothing. And here's a correct statement. Lyndon Johnson benefited financially. Of course. And it was on Air Force One that I believe Jackie Kennedy said to him, "Why did you kill my husband?" So, I mean, it's crazy to me. How about the hilarious interview with the lawyer saying that Santo told him the mafia did it? Yeah, right. Yeah, because Santo Trafficante is going to look at him and go, we did that, right? But there were some gangsters that were caught on wiretap saying some very interesting stuff like, we killed the wrong one. Now, when somebody says we killed the wrong one, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're the ones that did it, but that's sort of including you into a wider conspiracy. You know how easy it would have been for the government to just blame organized crime? Seriously. There were people in the government not happy with how JFK dealt. Sorry, my Siri is going off for some fucking reason, even though I have it on. There were people in the government that were not happy with how JFK dealt with Castro. No, absolutely not. Because it's sort of the pussification of America, right? Like, Cuban Missile Crisis, we're going to go in there and do this, and they fall on their face. And then Vietnam ends up becoming what it becomes. I mean, it just made America look bad, and there may have been some other stuff. Let's see. I don't know how much the mob really knew when they knew. But then again, if we talk about Cuba, if we talk about Cuba, I'm not taking any guests yet. Hold on a second. We talk about Cuba, they wanted to get the mafia involved to kill Castro, and I think for them, honestly, if you ever wanted to look at one reason why the mob would have been pissed other than Bobby Kennedy is because they blamed John F. Kennedy for losing Cuba, because I think for a long time they thought, okay, if he goes in there and he can get Castro the fuck out of there, we can get our casinos back. And that was probably what was on the line for organized crime, because that's what they wanted. And I think the mere fact that that was an epic failure was probably enough to infuriate them. And then when they start, the mob witch trials, I'm sure that was, not easy either. Regarding Trump, that's either a failure or incompetence or an inside job, especially in the Secret Services having a $30,000 rifle, right? I wouldn't disagree. Gavin Newsom blocks Sirhan's pardon. Well, yeah, because that's just, what you do. Block him from getting out. Don't let him talk. But I don't know. I've never, first he got shot in the back. How does Sirhan standing in front of him shoot him in the back? It's impossible. Even Bobby Kennedy Jr. has said that. And Bobby Kennedy, getting killed himself was really just more of a reaction to, oh, hell no, we're not going through this again. And I think, too, a lot of those that were in the government, including Richard Nixon, Lyndon Johnson, and some other people were very worried about Bobby Kennedy getting into office because legitimately was going to open up the book on everything. And where the real conspiracy comes in isn't even so much that this country did that, because our country has killed leaders from other countries throughout history. Anybody that, Gaddafi, we backed him getting killed, whether you liked him or not, or whether you thought that was good. We helped back that. We backed Pablo Escobar and gave him weapons for years. And so this country, listen, I waved the flag, red, white, and blue, but let's just be honest. We do some seedy shit. And we will get into bed with demons and monsters if it fits our bottom line. And a lot of people don't know with the Wagner company that was, sort of contracted mercenaries working in the Middle East. The Americans backed them to attack people in the Mideast because they wanted a percentage of the oil fields. And that's why Putin and Russia backed the Wagner group, because the Wagner group's whole entire MO was go in, kill women, children, and anybody and terrorists, but let's take these oil fields, because Russia was offered 25% of each oil field they could conquer and take over in the Mideast. And the United States, for a percentage, got involved too. So this country's, hands are not clean either. We have done some horrible, awful things. That's just the truth. Basic forensic studies of crime scenes, you can tell everything you need to know about a person. Absolutely. Johnson was supposed to ride in the car with Kennedy and then winds up in another car, totally the government, not the mob. No, I agree with you. That's where my stance is. If anything, I think the mob got involved with putting Jack Ruby into position to do what he did. Why the hell he would even do that, what he was promised to do, I have never, ever believed for 1 second. What the government says about that is, well, he was just a Kennedy supporter and went apeshit. Everybody knew he was a front for the mob in the Midwest, in Kansas City especially. And then suddenly he ends up scoping out the fucking police station for 3 days before he kills Oswald. And every single cop on the beat there knew who he was. They just let him in. Nah, not a problem. Like, really? So it's ridiculous. And it's been said that when Oswald got picked up, I guess something about him being in a movie theater, he had no idea why he was being arrested. Had no clue. You know how many people we would have taken out every week? Absolutely. Hello, Bo. The Wagner group is a very powerful group with no alliance. Exactly. And they're very dangerous. They're dangerous guys. And you know what the Wagner group was really made up of? Vladimir Putin. I'm going to pronounce the other guys Provaganaz or whatever, sends this military guy into prisons in Russia. And they tell the prisoners, you have a choice. You can leave right now and come work as a mercenary. You're probably going to die, but at least you're free. But we'll pay you good and you'll get some good money. That's where they're getting a lot of these mercenaries from. And the United States has worked in tandem with them on certain different things. They're a very serious group. They're no better than other terrorist groups, to be honest with you. But anyway, he wasn't insane. That was calculated by somebody. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing about it is this is the weirder conspiracy with Jack Ruby, is that after the murder of Oswald, they put him into protective custody, which is kind of odd, because why would you put the murderer of Oswald in protective custody? Like, wouldn't he be a national hero for doing what he did? If some fucking nut killed the president, he just avenged the president's death. I mean, that guy, Jack Ruby, would be hoisted a fucking above hands and everybody'd be passing him around, cheering him on. But they put him in protective custody. That was always odd to me. And that I know that his health was actually pretty decent. And then all of a sudden, within, I believe it was a couple of weeks, he has terminal cancer. Like, seriously, how does that happen? And it's long been suggested that somebody gave him some sort of shot or something that basically inserted cancer. And I don't even know if that's capable, or I don't even know if you can do that. I'm sure you can. I mean, if you can inject plutonium into somebody, I'm sure you could do that with cancer. But there have been some that said, well, no, he was sick, that's why he did it. Well, okay, that would make sense sort of in a certain kind of way. You're going to die anyway, so fuck it. Go out being a hero, do your thing for your boys. But nah, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I never have. He probably got poisoned like Diddy murder cases. Well, and that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people say that Ruby was silenced, because one of the things that Ruby said before he died was he wanted to talk to somebody from the FBI. He wanted to have a meeting with the FBI, and he wanted to discuss the Oswald stuff. And it was shortly after that he died. So, once again, if Whitey Bulger can get murdered within hours of being in a fucking a federal prisoner, but what makes you think that this couldn't go down that way? Well, Putin's killed a lot of people. Definitely killed a lot of people. All right. We can still talk about the Kennedy stuff, but we're also going to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me ask you guys a question in the chat. If you guys ordered something offline, this is like non-mob related, but it just infuriates me. You see a pair of shoes online, right? And they're expensive shoes, whatever. But I always buy the same type of shoes, so I always get different color schemes or whatever. So I buy these shoes. This is Thursday night, okay? And, every time you check out, they offer shipping options, right? Oh, pay $22 and it will overnight it. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I got nothing to do this weekend. Let's splurge. Let's overnight it. What day is it? Sunday? It still hasn't gotten here. It still hasn't even left fucking California. And I ordered this Thursday night, which means Friday morning, they box it and ship it immediately. What the fuck am I paying $22 extra for? Because technically, if it doesn't get here till Wednesday, I mean, it would have been like normal fucking shipping anyway. And to make matters worse, then I go online because I want to buy a hoodie that kind of matches the shoes. So I find this hoodie. It's at Kohl's, and I ordered the hoodie. They don't even offer me when it can be delivered. They just say, oh, standard shipping. They don't offer me like quick shipping, 2-day turnaround, whatever. I bet you this fucking sweatshirt is going to arrive here first before them fucking shoes. I guarantee it. I don't get it. I don't understand that. What the fuck am I paying? No, they're coming from California. They're coming from Irvine. They're Adidas shoes, Adidas Superstars. That's all I wear is Adidas. They're coming from Irvine. My sweatshirt, which is a Run DMC sweatshirt, by the way, is coming from a Kohl's in Florida, and it's going to be here before California. And I didn't pay no extra. So in a way, I kind of feel like FedEx is fucking me over here. I don't get it. I unfortunately can't order my shoes offline. I have to buy custom footwear. So I have a complete different struggle there. No, I get it. And you know what the weird thing is? Certain shoe brands, this is what I hate about Amazon. This is what I hate about Amazon. You go and you say, okay, typically, let's say I like loose sweatshirts. So I buy XL, so I have a lot of room to play in. All right. But an XL with this particular company might be as big as a motherfucking dress. So like, I don't order clothes on Amazon because there's been too many times I'm like, well, I'll buy an XL. I get here, it's down to my fucking kneecaps. Then I order a large and it's like a fucking midriff. So it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? So I don't buy fucking clothes off Amazon. Even if it's like designer stuff that I like, I just won't. If I can't try it on, shoes with Adidas typically are always the same for me, unless they're narrower. Then I have a problem with it. So Sadia Shabazz, Moo. Alrighty then. But like I said, guys, Chris, if you want to come on, you can. I'm going to drop the link. Hopefully StreamYard's working accurately. We could talk about this or any other organized crime stuff that you guys want to talk about. I live in Santa Monica. Irvine's only 30 minutes from me. If you need something, let me know. Well, I could have used you yesterday or no, Thursday night. Because these are some great shoes. They're like two-tone. They look like wingtips, black and white wingtips from back in the day. I love Adidas shoes anyway. But what I did was I went through my closet and I have like 50 pairs of shoes. And I'm like, all right, some stuff I never wore. So I give it away to people that need shoes, and other stuff I just kind of recycle or whatever. But for the life of me, I can't fucking understand why it takes so goddamn long to get fucking shoes from California. I mean, I get like shipping and all. Hey, Chris, how you doing? I get shipping and all of that. But like, if I'm paying close to $25 fucking dollars, I want the motherfuckers on my feet in 18 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
with shoes, you said it's like, they're consistent since I was like a size 10 at whatever, 12, 13 years old. I've been a size 10 forever. You don't have to worry about trying on shoes. Clothes, forget about it. That's a different story,
Right.
A like 2XL in one shirt could be totally different in another.
So here's where it gets weird. So I used to play pro hockey, as everybody knows. So I wear a 10.5 shoe, which means you wear a 9 skate, because skates are a size and a half below because you always want a little extra room. Like the whole trick to skates is you put 2 fingers in the back near your Achilles. And if you have wiggle room, it's perfect. If you have no wiggle room, they're too small for you. So the thing is that when I wore CCM, which is a big brand, I wore 9.5s, but Bowers run traditionally a little bigger. So it's always 9. So the funny thing is the other, just for reference, back in everything I always played with was top of the line, everything. The skates were, I think, ran about $700-800 back then.
Yeah. It's just expensive, that equipment.
So the other, and I had, I think, Coho Pro Fiber sticks, Easton ultralights, which you could, once the blades start to wear down, you heat it up with a gun, pull it out, put a new blade. Okay. I went, just for reference really quick, I went online because I started thinking the other day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to buy all new stuff and I'm going to play like in a beer league, which is going to get me in trouble because then I'm going to end up getting into a fight. I already know that. That's just me. But I'm not supposed to play anymore. Christian, hold on. Give me one.
Yeah, good. Take your time, brother. Take your time.
All right. So what ended up happening was, I started looking at what a beer league costs. I'm like, all right, $450, 15 games. I'm probably going to get suspended 10 of those for fighting. So is it worth it? So I said, well, let me go look at skates and some new equipment. And I still have a bunch of my old stuff here. Listen, I have never paid $480 or $600 for a hockey stick in my life, and I'm not about to fucking start now. $600 fucking
That's crazy,
dollars.
man. That's fucking nuts.
And if you play the way that I play, that's going to last all of about 13 minutes when I chop somebody over the fucking head.
That's
okay.
Nuts.
So I went to the skates, and when you get for people that don't like ice hockey, I'm sorry, I'll shut up in a minute. The blade on your skate. Okay. Let me just ask you two a question. Have you guys ever gone ice skating in a rink?
Once.
Yes.
Okay. Did your feet do this? You couldn't grip or barely stand up. Do you want to know why that is? I'll tell you why. Because they're not sharpened. So what you have on a hockey blade is, here's your blade on the bottom. When you sharpen them, you go right down the middle, and it's either it's either a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch cut. 3/8 if you're a defenseman, 1/8 if you're a forward, blah, blah, blah. But the reason why they won't, because when you sharpen it, what it does is it gives you an edge on the right and an edge on the left. So now you're even, right? They don't sharpen rental skates because they know you're going to fall and they're afraid you'll kill somebody. Because if you get hit with a blade like that,
makes sense. Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
Right. So that's why when people go to ice skating rinks, they get very disheartened with it, the whole thing, saying this is impossible. Well, it's impossible because they're just not sharpening the fucking skates. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, moving past that, I went and looked at elbow pads, and I'm like $89, shin pads, 100. I'm like, before I got done, I was up to like $6,000. And I'm just like, there's just no fucking way. So from my perspective, how the fuck do you teach the game to the kids when the kids can't afford it? It's ridiculous to me. It's just ridiculous.
Sports in general, Chris,
today.
to me, sports in general, Jeff, has priced out the working class. It's usually rich kids and upper middle class kids that can afford the sports like baseball, hockey.
You're right, because I never said I was poor, came from a poor family. My father was upper middle class, without a doubt, being a military guy, and my mother being an RN, like that's big money, right? But my father, from age, I think they put me on skates when I was 2. I could barely fucking walk, and I was on skates. That's just what our family did. And I think from 2 to about, I don't know, about 18, when I stopped playing travel, it was like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year just to travel to go play. That's like,
okay,
now it's
but
like
then
10,000. It like the cheapest down here where I live for kids to even afford travel baseball or soccer, you have to pay like $10,000, $10,000 to $12,000.
Yeah, that's fucking.
never mind the hotels.
People, man, that's nuts.
Right. And the thing is, if I was just playing, and we'll get to organized crime here in a second, but just if I was just playing in a rec league, that's different. Okay, that's like $400 or $500. You play 30 games, whatever. But I was playing at the highest tier and 2 ages above where I should have been, because I was very good. So I couldn't play with just the regular kids my age. I had to play with I think at 12, I was playing with 15-year-olds because I was better than everybody. But I was also undersized. My senior year of high school, I was 5'7". 5'7". By the time I went from, I think, June of my senior year to probably February, I grew 4 or 5 inches. So, and then I went straight to junior hockey and then to pro and all of that.
That's a late bloomer, man. It's rare for guys to still
big
grow
time.
after,
I couldn't grow a goddamn beard until I was I still really can't, but I didn't even grow facial hair until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
I'm just a late bloomer, but thank God I grew, and that's why I had to play such a tough, that's why I had to fight. Because if first of all, I wasn't the fastest kid in the world, right? So if you're not the fastest, you better be the toughest. Because to buy yourself room out there, you're going to be a nasty prick. So it was just amazing to me. And one thing that really made me upset is, when I used to work at ice rinks during the summer, when the hockey season wasn't going on and we weren't playing, I work at a rink, manage the ice rink, cut the ice, and we used to do what was called learn to skate programs for underprivileged kids. And for $100, we gave them all the equipment, gave them 15 games, let them have a good time. The problem was always the same: is after that, and they love it, they can't afford it because it's not an inexpensive sport. And I was talking to a guy on Facebook that was 10 times better the player than I would have ever been. Could have played in the NHL. He was that good, and he coaches at the collegiate level. And he said to me, I don't know how these guys do it. He goes, they're paying $1,200 for skates, 4 sticks, another $4,000 for this, and it's just. If you want to grow the fucking game, you need to put a fucking clamp on the production people to stop charging exorbitant fees for something. What was a baseball bat? We were kids was $60 for an aluminum bat?
Yeah, well, that's what I say. The hockey stick must be made out of some crazy material for it to
Kevlar
be,
now. It's Kevlar, and it's Kevlar. It's Kevlar, and it's completely bendable. But you now you have what's called these flexes. I used to use a 3/4 curvature. Okay. And usually your blade came with a 3/4. That means that it's opened up at the top. So it's pushed out a little bit. And that's more for high shots and stuff. But we used to take blow torches, stick them under our feet, pull the stick up, and then really bend that curve, right? Now they have Flex Force 90, Flex Force 44. And it's like going to fucking college trying to figure out what kind of stick do you need. Well, this 40 flex is for low to mid-tier shots. Fuck that. Just give me a goddamn Sherwood and let me go play. You know what I mean? So, and these sticks break very easily. Just watch an NHL game and you'll see for yourself. They take a slap shot, the shit goes flying in a million different pieces. There goes 400. Somebody slashes you. Oh, there goes $400.
A lot of money to break, man.
Yeah, fuck that.
Nuts.
So yeah, Anyway, Chris,
well, I mean, yeah.
I got your email. I didn't understand what language you were speaking in.
I was using the voice on the mic. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna mail your book out at the end of this week, probably tomorrow.
Okay. Well, that's not a problem. Take your time. As I was saying, I mean, to be honest with you, we're just lucky to have you around, and
I think so.
Everything else is just small. Is whatever. It don't even matter, to be honest with you. We're just lucky to have you around.
Well, it was. I'm going to tell you what. It wasn't a fun experience, and I'm going to tell you another thing. Like I might not have said this, but I got death threats even in the hospital. I hope you fucking die. Your show sucks. That's
ridiculous. Whatever.
And it's like, first of all, not a lot of people knew what was going on with me to begin with, but to get this from people, and then other people sending me like clips of certain content creators talking shit about me, knowing I'm in the hospital. It's like, you know what? So I reached the point with it where I just said, you know what? I'm done. And honestly, I didn't even tell anybody this. I think I told maybe one person. I says, when I think it was the day I got out of the hospital, is like, so when are you going to start the mob shit? I said, I'm done. I was going to end everything, and just the page would be gone. I would just refund everybody's money for the fucking podcast, and I was just going to go.
No, I'm glad you didn't.
I was just fed up with it. And
at least with the podcast, you keep a lot of the creeps out because it's a paid.
Well, no, I don't. No, because you want to know want to know what's happening now? People that listen to the podcast are taking clips of what I say and playing it on people's shows now. And that really pisses me off.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And so one particular person that did it, I had my lawyer get on him. Like, it's copyrighted. Like, you're pretty stupid for doing that. Or they'll go in the chat and they'll say I was talking about this one or that one, and when I wasn't, or even if I was. See, this is what people don't understand. If I have something to say, I will just say it myself. Yeah. I don't need to hide behind a veil of a podcast. I'll just say it right here and now. And so I know that somebody went to Eric Foss and told him I was talking shit about him, and he exploded on me in an email because he was upset. And it's like, I don't even know who the fuck you are, dude. Like, I met you on Lee's show once. So, and then he did apologize. I'll give him that, saying that he was wrong or whatever. But it's like, but the shit you said to me in an email, dude, was so fucking far out of line, like based on information that A, isn't true, and B, because people told you that. So I don't fault him for being upset. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about him. But it's like that type of stuff that when you get into this genre, that's what happens. And you have to have due diligence of just, if I don't hear Chris say it, then it doesn't exist to me, And then the other thing was, I the other day, I'm sitting here and I'll say it. I got a text from Lee Cole, who does Wrestling with the Devil, with Renee. And he's like, hey, listen, dude, I never said a fucking word about you. I would never do that. I didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about. I had no clue. Then I had to go and find out where this came from. And it was like, I think it was Eric Foss was on his show saying, Lee Cole contacted me and wanted me to go after Jeff Canarsie because he said something about James. It's like, so I said to Lee,
people aren't happy unless there's negativity passed around everywhere. Some people are just not happy with it.
So this is what I said to Lee. I said, Lee, I don't know what you're talking about. Once I found out, I said, oh, okay, was this it? He's like, yeah. I picked up the phone and I called him and said, look, even if you did say this, even if you did do it, I don't care. Like, we all get mad and say shit and do shit sometimes that's out of character. I don't give a shit. I told Lee, Lee says, no, Jeff, I did not let him prove it. I said, it doesn't matter. And the reason why it doesn't matter is the point I'm trying to get to without like getting myself into a war with people is I don't care what any of these fucking people say anymore. After what I've been through in the last month, I don't care. I get an email. Oh, you've been mentioned in this pedophile ring. I'm dying in a hospital and this is the shit I got to deal with. And then because
he probably didn't know when he sent you that you're in the hospital, but
no,
I get it. And the thing is that there's just so many people that are involved in this genre, if that's even like you said what you want to call it. There's so many fucking people that there's no way to. You just have to dissociate from all of it. You know what I mean?
And that's where I'm at. I wish all of them
no
luck.
way to avoid it. Like you can't interact with certain people because then they're gonna want to,
right.
Even trying to look out for you, draw you in. It's like
I don't dislike. Let me state this for. I don't dislike anybody but one person. We all know who that is. We're not going to go there. Okay. He's the only person I don't like. He's the only person I will punch in the fucking face.
But that was funny about that video, though. I did watch that video. That was hilarious.
Right?
I must admit.
There's got to be. There's two. I won't mention them. There's got to be.
Yeah, there's more. There's probably three, right? But at the end of the day, if my whole life is predicated on getting up and hating and being angry and wanting to say horrible, then I might as well just die. I don't want to live that kind of life. So I wish all of them luck. Keep me out of your crazy shit and just leave me alone. I don't bother. Listen, in the old days, I couldn't sit here and say to you, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't instigate that, because I did. But in the last 2 years, 3 years now, I don't instigate shit. I respond to shit. But now the rule is we don't respond to anything. I'm not going to.
It's got to be exhausting. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm a big Penn State fan, as you know, and I'm on these Penn State message boards, and I'm not there's a lot of homers for people on these message boards of their team, and we call them sunshine pumpers, and I call them out because they say all this crazy shit. You say the littlest thing that they don't like, and they go all nuts. And I find myself getting caught up, like always, like having to fire back and explain myself, and it's just fucking exhausting. Like you really. Like you said, it's hard to like keep away when people are coming at you to not fire back, but it's
just from my vantage point. From my vantage point, I wish everybody the best of luck. I hope they succeed and like make money and do their thing. You can do that without getting into the dirt. You can do it.
Yeah, right.
But you just have to be willing to ignore it. I have not always been the spokesman for being perfect at doing that, but to be in the hospital, and this is when it really hit. It's when it hit home with me. Is I'm in the hospital dealing with all this shit. I know that other people were keeping shit from me because I couldn't be angry because of the situation I was in. But it just taught me that I know who my friends are now. Yeah. I know who my friends aren't, and I know the people that continue to poke me. It's just not worth it. And listen, you don't have to like me. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I'm going to make this very bluntly clear. There's a lot of people that take the stance of very infamous people on this YouTube, okay? People they don't know, people they will never know, people that I know very well, people I hung out with a lot. Right. And if you're going to be so blind that you're going to take somebody's side and come after me and attack me for it, tells me more about you.
It's a fan. Yeah, it's a lot of that's fanboys. Maybe some of them know. And I know you're getting now.
Yeah, you know who I'm referring to. But and that's the other thing: the audacity of people who trashed me, who physically trashed me on their fucking shows because Joey Merlino said one thing. Then they want to turn around. Then they turn around.
But
and they find out the hard way. Oh shit, the guy was right. Jeff was right. What do you want me to do now? Anyway.
It's just the people that are negative. They don't know you. Sorry.
Nobody does.
I forget. I got a question that I forget. You said, how did you end up getting banned again from whatever that European country was? Remember you said you're banned from a country in Europe or something?
Several. Yeah.
How?
So for those that are in the chat, and those that aren't, I was minding my business one day, and I started getting these Instagram requests from an attorney in country that this person is in is Finland, and he's an attorney for some very, very big people. What I didn't know at the time was that at the time he was under investigation for murder and drug charges himself. Which is always interesting, but he was an attorney. So he says, hey, listen, my name is so-and-so. Chris, I think I've told you who this guy is. You've seen photos of the guy.
Probably. Yeah.
Remember that guy? Yeah, him.
Well, I remember a guy that was very jacked up. If
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
So he contacts me and says, "Hey, listen," and he sends me he says, "Can I send you some paperwork? What's your email?" And he does, and there's all of these. First of all, it's in Finnish, so I can't fucking understand a word of it, but I keep seeing my name and Mob Talk Radio over and over and over again on this document. And so I asked him, "What is it?" He goes, "Well, can I call you?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he spoke perfect English and whatever. And he just explained to me that Interpol and something that had happened. Apparently my radio show was my podcast was getting smuggled in on MP3 players into the prison over there. And at this particular prison, they were all Ndrangheta, Cosa Nostra, narco traffickers, the worst of the worst criminals. And they were all listening to my show and talking about it. And apparently somebody on one of the tiers got caught with it. And so they brought it down and started listening to it. And they thought, based on the way that I talk sometimes in code, that I was sending certain group leaders messages through my show.
That's insane.
So
That's
the
insane.
secondary thing he sent me was an arrest warrant for my arrest if I am to ever go into that country.
You got
I asked him, I said, "What the hell are these charges?" It was something like conspiracy for gangsterism is the way it was described to me.
Jesus.
So I'm like, "You got to be fucking kidding me." He goes, "Yeah. And if it's like this way here, it's probably definitely this way in Sweden and in Spain and whatever." So anyway, I get to know this guy really well. And he sends me a photo of him and Simeon Milosevic standing together.
Oh,
and
God.
That's when I said, "Okay." So then all of a sudden, I start having problems, and he says to me, "Do you need my help?" And I was like, No. This is all bullshit. And he goes, "Let me tell you something. This guy's a punk. I make one phone call, they'll come from all different countries, right?" I was like, "Whatever." And then he said to me that a certain informant, who I will not mention on this show, was going to Albania. And he says to me, "Watch what I do." And I thought,
my God.
I'm like, all right, whatever. People say shit, right? Turns out, turns out this guy comes out of the club and gets dumped on his head 6 times on the cement by about 6 different guys who were Albanian gangsters.
He can't say Christian, but or he won't say it. You
So
can put 2 and 2 together and just think of the Albanian.
So about 3 weeks after this happened, the guy sends me all these laughing emojis, right? And he sends me a photo of this guy. He shit his pants. I still have the photo. One day I'm going to put it out, but he's laying on the ground and he shit his pants.
Wow, man.
So then once this shit started with the ass wipe down in South Philly, he calls me again and says, "You need my help?" I said, "No." He goes, "Do you want to come to Spain?" Because he has a house. He has a house in Spain.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was going to say when you said Finland, I'm thinking you said the big guy. I'm like, you said Spain before, but all right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he's like, "You can go stay in my house in Spain. I'll pay for the whole thing. I can't come see you. I'm banned from Spain right now because of charges." And I said, "What charges?" Then he started sending me all his criminal files. And it was like murder, narcotics, murder. And I'm like, holy shit. I said, "Jesus Christ, are you going to go away for the rest of your life?" He goes, "No, over here, it's like 4 or 5 years. It's not a big deal." And he goes, "But I didn't do it. So he says, "Look at this from the case file." And he sends me a picture of a guy face down, boom, head exploded. And he types in, "See this?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "This is a rat who ratted a bunch of us out." And I said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "He had only been out of prison 3 hours."
Well, you see, you've always said the life expectancy for rats over there is very low, minimal.
Yeah. And so he ended up sending me a cut from the HA motorcycle group, because he is big time with them as well. And I guess it's not a cut. It's like what they give to somebody they respect. And it's sort of like an honorary kind of thing. And I said, "Well, what do I do with this thing?" He goes, "Put it in your closet. Don't ever fucking wear it, because you'll get hurt." He goes, "Just leave it in your closet. It's just for you." So that's why when all of this shit started happening to me, he's like, if if these people keep fucking with you, you let me know. And I guarantee you. And I'm just like, no, that's all right. And the weird thing is he's been ghosted. So I think he's in jail finally. I think he's doing time now.
Probably.
So, because I know he was going to do like 4 years. He was going to do like 4 years. And let me tell you something. This guy was a fucking Olympian, track runner before he was ever whatever.
When you sent me the picture, and I didn't know who it was for, my first impression was like, you're sending me a UFC fighter. Like, that's what the guy looked like.
You know, but he's 6'5", 280.
And it's a ripped up fucking 6'5". He's not like, he's in shape.
Oh, his legs are the size of a fucking, you know what he did? I shouldn't even tell this story. I went to bed one night about, I don't know, midnight. I was really tired. Chris, I think it was actually like after we hung out. Like the next day I wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. There's like a video. I'm like, what the fuck is he sending me a fucking, I thought it was you. It wasn't. It was my friend. And it was him with some females.
Oh, geez.
And I'm just kind of like, I look at the, because you got to hit play before it opens, but I could see sort of in the background. I'm like, what the fuck is that an arm? Like, what the fuck is that? It wasn't an arm. And it was him and whatever. And I'm just like, so I didn't quite know how to respond to that. Cause when somebody sends you like a video of them entertaining women or whatever, it's like, it's kind of a weird fucking thing. So I said, Jesus Christ, could they even walk after that? And he goes, what? He goes, what the fuck? And then he FaceTimes me. He's like, my friends, they're all doing blow. They decided to fuck with you last night and film me do it. And I'm just like, dude, just don't send me that anymore. I said, Jesus Christ. Like is that even real? Anyway.
Man, Jesus, you could have people lumped up overseas. You're like a Totorina, man. You got power to fucking push buttons overseas.
Well, listen, I know it sounds crazy, but the reality is I do. And the reality is that if people think that if people are under the illusion that people are not watching what they're doing, they're very, very wrong. Because if this guy comes here or this guy sends people, it's over. It's over. Because he was like, you need guns, you need a bulletproof vest. You tell me what you need. I will have it brought to you today. I was like, no, I don't. What the fuck? You think I'm going to the mattresses with somebody? Like, no. And then he was asking me, he goes, oh, what's cocaine go over there for a kilo? How much is it for a kilo? I said, how the fuck would I know? You could put cocaine in front of me. I wouldn't even know the difference. He goes, oh, it's going for like $4,000 here, blah, 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 blah. And then the funniest thing is he tells me how organized crime works in that country. And it's very European. And he's like, yeah, you come over here to Spain. I'm going to listen, to put it this way. He was close friends with Danny Kinahan.
I was just going to say, think of that. I literally, as soon as you said that,
I knew where Danny
still hiding out in
I'm not going to say it now, but I'm going to tell you this. I know where Danny Kinahan has been for the last 8 months. Now who knows where the fuck he is? Good luck, best to you. But he's like, you come to Spain, I'll introduce you and all this. Like, and he sent me photos of the house, beautiful house. He's like, yeah, I got a Maserati you can drive. Like, I don't give a shit. But if you look at where all of the arch criminals vacation now, it's 2 places: the Dominican Republic, and Marbella, Spain. Those are the 2 places. So
Marbella's beautiful too.
He's a good guy. Like, I wanted to take him up on his offer, but it's like, the thing is, you only know somebody as well as you know somebody.
And with you trusting your trust shit, and like no way would you.
I'd be like, hey Chris, we're gonna go to Spain, and I wouldn't sleep for 3 days. What was that noise? Jeff, would you relax? I don't know. That's a fucking noise. This guy's gonna fuck. Listen, I'm not as bad as Elio is. Because Elio, every little twig brand, like I told you, I told this story before. Elio and I left South Philadelphia at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Elio, as soon as we go over the bridge to Jersey, stop. He goes, why? I said, I got to piss. He goes, why do you want to piss in Jersey? I said, I piss on everything that's fucking Jersey. Fuck him. So he pulls over. He gets lost. He takes 4 left turns, a right turn. We end up in the fucking Pine Barrens of all goddamn places, which is not where you want to be in the middle of the night. He's like, oh, let's just go here. And I'm like, we're in the Pine Barrens, Elio. It's just real quick. How long does it take to piss? 2 minutes, 3 minutes? I'm like, whatever. So he won't piss standing near me. He's the guy that'll go in the stall when everybody else goes in the urinal, a little shy kind of thing. So I go about 10 feet off the side of the road. I just start unleashing like a fire hose because I got to go. When you got to go, you got to go. I hear him still walking through the woods. Then I hear like break, like a twig branch break, another one. Then I hear, oh my God, oh my God. He goes running past me going, Hitler's in the fucking woods. Hitler's in the fucking woods. And I'm like, of all the fucking
that guy must have been on something.
That's what I thought. But he hadn't drank. He was drinking water all night. You know what he saw?
Wow.
Do you know the Roy Rogers signs from like back in the day? There was an old Roy Rogers sign that somebody had painted a mustache on in like the middle of the woods, and he caught it out of the side of his eye. But he tells me it's Hitler.
I was going to ask, was there any alcohol involved? Just
no. That's Chris, you can vouch for me. Did you ever see Elio have a beer?
That night, I don't remember that he,
I was drinking that night. You were drinking. We know the little guy was drinking because he took his shirt off and was swinging his shirt over his fucking head like a moron with the world's most coked out version of Imagine I've ever heard in my life. He was really mad at you for saying that.
I wasn't even saying it be rude, man. It was just like I thought that was something that was out there years ago. Wasn't even reporting him down. It was a fun night, he's a good dancer. Well, it is what it is.
Listen, I can always say this about the guy. I have never seen somebody that small in my life drink that amount.
Yeah.
And still have the cognizant ability to know when to shut the fuck up.
Philly guys could party, man. It's just in it's in their DNA. I want to ask you on another note, what any new updates with the Italian American civil rights stuff and Sammy Bull or
they're gonna file Son of Sam against him on behalf of Joy Faraci. I think Gerard Maroney I think he interviewed Joy on his show. I'm a little frustrated with Gerard. I'm not going to lie. And my frustration with Gerard is that sometimes I feel like, I don't know. I like Gerard. Don't get me wrong. Gerard's a good guy. You know what I mean? I think that the little short guy keeps telling everybody he's close with Gerard when he isn't. That's the first big problem. The second thing is he lies and says that Gerard's the one that tells him stuff, and I know Gerard doesn't. But I think from my point of view, it's like, when Gerard does something, he sends me the link, can put this out or whatever. And it's like, I'm in the hospital, motherfucker. Like, the last thing I give a fuck about is you interviewing Lilo Brancato, that piece of shit that he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just
he did interview Joy, I believe, because I saw
Elio was on it. Elio was on it too. So
I didn't watch. I just saw that he did.
Let me give people an understanding about who Gerard is. Okay, Gerard's a tough guy. Gerard is a tough guy. He's a great attorney. I believe that when Gerard's sister, I don't know how old Gerard was, but I think he was a teen. Somebody tried to shoot his sister, and he jumped in front of the bullet and got shot in the back. Yep, got shot in the back. And he's, he walks with a cane or whatever, but he's one of the toughest, most honest guys I've ever met. And I don't want anybody to think I'm disparaging him because I would never do that. I would do anything for the guy, and he knows that. I just think sometimes, because with me and because of what I do, it's
gotta be careful.
I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. So a lot of guys that are like Gerard that are really mixed in with a lot of people are very leery of letting people know what I do because it's frowned upon in certain circles, not frowned upon in others. So so sometimes you walk into a room and like people just don't like you because you do a mob talk radio show. Even if they don't know you, they just don't like the idea of it. So I get it from that aspect of it. But sometimes I feel like, he looks down on me because of what I do. And I don't like that, and I don't think it's anything he means intentionally. I really don't think he means it intentionally, but it just comes off that way. And it's like
he's stuck up.
I don't know. He's old school. You understand what I mean? He's an old school, old school Queens guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been nothing but nice to me, but it's like sometimes when I do certain things, I always make it out to be, listen, I'm not involved in the Italian American Civil Rights League. I don't fucking represent them because I am the one person you don't want representing that, because I talk about organized crime, right? So I'll say something to him in a text like, hey, I said it this way, people don't give you shit because of me. He goes, oh, I really appreciate it. That makes me feel bad though, because I'm a good fucking dude. And God knows, I think my record stands very clear on what I'm willing to do for people. Yeah. So it kind of makes me feel kind of weird. That's all. John Gotti Jr. never treated me that way. Never. Oh. Never. But it is what it is.
Like, Gerard should know you're not saying anything that you shouldn't say, So.
No, but he has to play the politic game.
Yeah.
There are some organized crime guys that are very high up in the totem pole that love me. They think I'm great. We're good friends. We laugh, we joke. They laugh at what I do, and it is what it is. But then you have other guys who are leery of it because they just don't believe in anybody talking about it. But like I always joke with the old timers, it says, yeah, you don't want nobody to talk about it, but you fuckers get caught on your phones. So like, who's the worst here? You know what I mean? Hold on, I need to go up here and thank Blue Blazer. All right, thank you, Blue Blazes, for a super sticker. Please donate if you guys can. I need your money. We want the negates to grow. We want the limbs to grow back. We want that evil liver to heal itself. Evil liver. I have medical bills I have to pay. Send me your money. If it's the last dollar in your account, give me your seed. Of course, give me your seed. I'm probably going to get a fucking weird point here now.
And Joe, Jeff, I agree with you that this generation of mobsters are not the brightest bulbs in the lot, but they're also obsessed with social media. That's how that whole bust. The obsession with social media got them caught. They want to take pictures of themselves.
So that's you're 100% right, Anthony, because that is a big issue. It's not just a big issue here; it's a big issue overseas, perhaps even bigger overseas. Fuck, you guys can go onto fucking Instagram and see the Sicilian gangsters all over fucking Instagram. Oh, they're all over Instagram. It's hilarious. But I'm going to tell you this: there is one guy that I know very, very well. Very, very well, who does not like social media. And in fact, the rules have been changed now. They're not allowed on social media. They can have social medias through their wife. Their wife can post wedding photos, gatherings, but there is to be no more standing next to the whole fucking hierarchy photos. They're not supposed to do.
You mean over in Italy, overseas, or here?
Here.
All right.
It's banned from 4 of the 5, and now I've heard it's banned in Philadelphia.
Well, I was gonna say this is the only social media I do. I personally don't like social media. I just think it's just a bunch of drama, and like I said, I don't want it. I don't need it. So, like I said, this is basically exactly. It's people just tooting their own horns.
Well, I told a friend of mine the other day, if I could bring in a hot 26-year-old to come to my house, come to my office every day and just do all my social media for me, you'd never see me on social media again. I hate it, but I have to do it because I have to promote my own bullshit. But no, not a fan.
Jeff, do you think when it comes to them getting caught on tape saying that they're worried about Andragna, do you think is Andragna starting to push into Sicily? That's why Cosa Nostra in Italy is worried about that?
I think they fear that's the eventuality of it. And I think the secondary thing to that is they've saturated the market. They control the market. So whereas Sicily was always sort of going back to the days of Luciano, I mean, these were the guys who really became the middleman between Afghan
Mad Dog
opium and stuff like that. And so when Andrangeda sort of steps in front of them, And now they control where it goes to Sweden, where it goes into Finland, when it goes to Philadelphia, where it goes here. They're cutting Sicily out of the profit margins, and they're almost triple banging them for their money. And they're getting low grade. It's forcing the Sicilians to deal with other groups that have low grade shit. From what I understand, I don't know what top grade shit is, but whatever.
You know, you would think. I mean, okay, so I know Andromeda has so much power that they don't have to worry about the Sicilians retaliating on them. But like, you would just think like enough's enough for them. That just keep the peace. Let's just keep the peace with Sicily. But I guess that's just not the mentality.
It's hard to keep the peace when for the last 100 years in Sicily, Toto Riina, Bernardo Provenzano, these guys killed judges and shit. Like, they weren't fucking around. And now they're not even getting violent over anymore in Sicily. They're just not. Because
I mean, in Dragula, just keep it like, and instead of like just cutting their legs out from underneath them with like cutting into their product, whatever it is you're saying, like, they got everything they fucking need. Like, let the Sicilians do it.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of the Sicilian gangsters are claiming they're bankrupt. They have no more money. Crazy. And is that accurate? Not really sure, but if you threw up sort of a schematic, like the old school overhead projectors that teachers used and shit, is if you put them up next to each other, Dragona now controls the fucking banks. They control the market. They control the real estate.
They really are a fascinating group. You know what I mean?
They really,
the whole structure, and do they have like this big saying like, my father is the sun, my mother is the moon? Is that some kind of
code? Oh yeah. It's very it's very, I use this term very loosely, very cultish in nature, right? It's very pagan in nature. They take shit very seriously. Like cheating on your wife will get your hands cut off. Like, you can't cheat on your wife. You can't, because even Toto Riina was like that. If Toto Riina found out that you were cheating on your wife, he would kill you. And the reason why was very simple. We are men of honor. We respect our wives and the mothers of our children. But most importantly, secondary to that, you cheating on your wife is going to make her open her fucking mouth. There you go.
And I bet you the mobsters feared their wives more than they feared their what is it called? Their opponents.
Yeah.
Some of those, I don't know. I don't know what that guy is, but
I don't know. I don't even know how to get rid of it. You won't even let me get rid of it.
My theory to this whole that whole Lee Oswald, I watch a ton of videos breaking down that shot. A lot of snipers from the military even say that shot was physically impossible from the angle he shot it from. There was no way he could have shot JFK from that angle that he did.
from the book depository. No, I don't think he did. He was a patsy.
I also heard the theory that someone behind the actual vehicle shot him.
I think the first shot came from the front, and I think the second shot came from the grassy knoll.
Well, the first shot where he was reaching like this,
that may have come from behind. You're right.
Shot.
Right. Well, I don't think Oswald ever shot him. I don't think Oswald was even up there.
Nazi, though. Why wouldn't he? They have used that,
but the way the top of the skull just flies
off.
No,
not that shot. I mean
the initial. The initial. Well, he was shot he was shot 3 or 4 times. I think it was 3.
Here's the thing, and let me just say this, and I know you won't believe in this at all. I know you won't. But anyways, I don't think it's a conspiracy to say, obviously, there's more than one shooter. Okay, we know there's 2 shooters, so obviously there's another person. Now, call me gullible, whatever. James Files, and I don't know if that's who you were talking
That's the guy I was talking about earlier that you said didn't understand the name.
I asked you about this before, Jeff, and I know you never really replied to it. You probably think it's bullshit. But James Files, and I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm not one of these guys that think that our government's behind 9/11 and the whole Whitey Bulger shit. Okay, but this James Files, he came out with a YouTube video admitting to being one of the shooters of Kennedy.
I saw it. I watched it. Yep.
I mean, listen, I don't think a human being could lie on the spot with that much detail, just boom, 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 for 2 hours straight. And so much of what he said just seems to connection with Charles Nicoletti and the mob.
Right.
Like, I think the mob is a little more involved than maybe what you do. Like, obviously they could, and even he said there's no way the mob could pull this off on their own. We weren't that bad. Like, no way this is it. But I do think maybe the CIA use loosely affiliated mob guys to have plausible deniability.
Oh,
And
absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. However, the only thing I'm going to rebuff you on is this. You just said you didn't see how a guy like that could just be like, bang, 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 right? Like, couldn't just, have you ever watched Michael Francis?
Yeah.
You ever watched Michael Francis? So here's the thing. You know what, Chris, I got to do one thing really quick. I got somebody at my door. Can you just run? Yeah.
Go ahead, man. Dude,
just run the show. I'll be here. I'll be back like 3 minutes.
All right.
Yep. You're fine. Yeah, because that's one thing I just mentioned. I don't know if you noticed it during the conversation is I didn't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, I mean it's James Files, because he's talking about the where he bit the bullet, and they actually said somebody did find that bullet with a teeth mark on it, but it was never.
I don't know about that part. I mean, I don't remember everything the guy said, but I mean,
I do remember him saying that.
It was like just Michael Francis. That's not so much of an interview. Like, this is my friend. This James Files was interviewed by a retired FBI agent. Why was it scrubbed and taken off YouTube 10 years ago? It was down for 10 years. Now it just came back on. And I'm not a conspiracy guy. But the thing is, listen, obviously there was someone else that shot Kennedy. So call me crazy.
But the question isn't he out right now?
Most credible of all the conspiracy shit you heard. That's, if I were to bet, if there's a person alive that shot him today, that's the guy I would put money on.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
what I'm trying to understand for me when it comes to the JFK thing, how was the government more afraid of his brother than? And Jeff said that the government felt like that they can control John Sr. a lot more than RFK. Why were they more afraid of
Jeff? Do what you got to do. You're saying why kill JFK instead of the brother?
No. Why is it that people believe that the government was more afraid of Robert than John?
Well, because I think it just proved that when he went after the mob, he was like an animal. John wasn't really like that. I think he was just more laid back, to be honest with you. I can see how he was easily more bent than his brother. I can see that aspect.
I don't know if the government had an issue as much with Bobby Kennedy as they did John, but the mob certainly did. You know, and ask the question of why would the mob then kill JFK when it was his brother? I mean, I just go back to remember what
killed by association.
The what?
Killed by association.
So what I'm going to say to that is, allegedly, if you heard the story of Carlos Marcello and the whole 9 yards of dropping him off in Guatemala and all that, supposedly when he came back, obviously the CIA was behind it too. Well, from the mob angle, Carlos Marcello said, you cut off the head, the tail follows. From the government angle, which had the true power in the CIA. It really wasn't Robert Kennedy doing all the crazy shit that they were getting pissed off at. It was more so JFK, like with the civil rights stuff, the Bay of Pigs. It was just more, JFK didn't even want to dissolve the CIA and break them up. So, to me, it was more JFK that.
So you think the mob was more afraid of RFK than JFK?
The mob, I believe, is more afraid of RFK. I think the government, their main target was JFK.
For me, all these conspiracies, I'm a younger guy. Sometimes I find it hard to believe that the government. Maybe it's because you guys are older than me and you became more jaded, and I'm still hopeful and trustful of the government that that I can't
Yeah.
believe they would do something like that.
I just think way back then it was easier to corrupt things and get away with things. I mean, Jeff could tell you stories about Operation Mongoose, where the CIA was looking for reasons to have a motive to go in and kill Castro and still have the public on their side. And I mean, there was allegedly files that he found where there was ideas of the CIA dropping bombs on our own country, blowing up our own planes to blame it on Castro to have a reason to go in. Shit was crazy back then.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Apparently, I'm sitting here and I hear bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, I said, noise. 6 NYPD cops. Apparently, somebody stabbed somebody in the lobby, and with a box cutter. And they're like, "Did you hear anything up here?" And I'm like, "No. Why would I hear anything?" Like,
that's number 2 in the past month.
Yeah.
I remember. I won't say anything if you don't want me to, but I remember the text you showed me.
Well, no, there was
think
actually.
I have, as a young guy, I still have too much faith in the government that they won't do stuff like that. Like, and you guys are a lot more jaded than I am, Jeff.
Well, the only thing
I don't think it's to that. I think there's still corruption. Obviously, I don't think it's to that degree anymore. But
I think it's not. This is treading on very thin ice, but the flight that was bound from Pittsburgh to DC got shot down by a fucking jet. That didn't crash on its own. The United States shot that fucking plane down. 100%.
The one with the Olympic athletes.
Do what?
The one that crashed in DC, the one with the Olympic athletes?
No, he's talking about the 9/11.
9/11.
That crashed and killed in Western PA.
Yeah.
I was confused.
And the reason why I say that is just because there have been a lot of government people that have said we had to do that. We had no choice. Sure, it's a great story that everybody bum rushed the cockpit and tried to take over the plane, but my father was supposed to be on that plane.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, and my father worked in the black world. Okay. And in his specific, let me see how I can explain this. So when I was a kid, and when you go to school and they say, "Oh, what does your parent do?" Right? I had to say that my father was a health physicist. What the fuck is a health physicist? Right?
A real smart guy.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to do the same thing.
Right. So everybody that my father worked with was CIA, CIA and like what they call black world operations. And he dealt directly with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And before 9/11 happened, I was legitimately in New York. And he called me, I think 2 days before 9/11 happened. I was visiting a cousin. He says, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Come home." And I legitimately said, "What the fuck do you, you miss me?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I miss you, but please come home." And I'm like, "Why?" And he just wouldn't tell me. And then I finally got home, and he was like, as I pulled in, he was leaving to go wherever the fuck it is he was going. I don't ask questions because he would say work shit. But DC and New York had ordered very specific radar surveillance to be put on big buildings all throughout the city. And it was like an emergency sort of deal. And he said to me, "That's just odd for that to happen. Like, this is not everyday sort of shit." So I said, "All right, well, whatever." He left. Next day, like I said, it was 2 days before 9/11. The next day, he called me from some undisclosed location. See, my father would go on business trips, but you could not reach him by telephone or any communication wherever he went. It was that high-tech security, right? And if I had friends that were Russian or Korean, he had to know immediately their names, and he had to have a lie detector test once a month as a part of whatever the fuck it is he did. So anyway, what ends up happening is he is flying somewhere. He was supposed to be on this flight, and I don't know where that flight was supposed to go, but he was supposed to go from A to B to C. So he was going somewhere else. He gets a call not to take the flight, to drive. Just go ahead and drive. But they said, go home. Just go home. He said, "All right, whatever." And he came home. And when 9/11 happened, I was asleep, and he knocked on my door. I woke up, and he says, "Come with me." And he took me down to the garage, and he had a little black and white fucking TV in the garage. He turned it on, and I'm looking at it, and he goes, "See, I said, what? He goes, they finally fucking did it. And I didn't know what really that meant at the time. But he most certainly believed that it was an inside job, if that makes kind of sense. Like they knew what was going to happen to some extent. You can't really control it. You know what I mean? But another weird story, he took me to, he used to take me on these business trips out to California, and he would like put me with one of his CIA buddies for the day to just like hang out. I didn't know they were CIA at all. And they would take me to like get beef jerky from Angelo's out in Northern California and over here. Meanwhile, he's off doing whatever secret shit he's doing. But one time I went to Atlanta and we were there. We're at the hotel. He's like, hey, I got to go for a couple hours. You'll be all right here by yourself. You can go down to the jacuzzi, the pool, swim. You'll be all right. You know, Tommy, the CIA guy, is going to be here with you. Everywhere I went, they would follow me. Like they were like right. First of all, I was a kid, so I get it, right? Like you're watching somebody else's kid, but they were just super on me for some reason. And he ends up coming back early. He says, hey, come with me. And he hands me this badge, and it's got a photo of me on the badge. And it's got all of these fucking weird military holograms. And I'm like, what is this? He goes, well, you're going to go with me. I said, well, where are we going? You'll see. We get into this rental car and we head to like the weirdest place. It's like right outside of Cobb County, which, you know, I don't know what the fuck Cobb County is, but it was nothing but woods. We're on this like dirt road. And he takes me, we're weaving through the woods. And we get to this point where there's like military people. There's blue tarps up everywhere in the middle of the woods. And there's these military guys like MP5s, but they're not wearing like camouflage. This is like some sort of military, black, dark, weird uniform shit. And they have fucking machine guns. And they're standing there. And he says, you cannot get out of the car. You have to stay in the car. I said, all right. He gets out. He goes to the trunk, he grabs something, and he starts walking back, and they part. He flips his badge, and they open this thing, and all I see is this metal everywhere. And I don't know what the fuck it is. I still, to this day, I don't. But I can tell you that a part of his job was hiding radioactive material in the ground. Like, a lot of radioactive shit gets buried in the ground, like in New Jersey, with medical waste and stuff like that. But he dealt with shit. He was a SR-22, or 25, which is 5 steps ahead of the president. And as far as clearance, his funeral, William Cohen, Secretary of Defense, was his funeral. So I don't know what it is that he fucking did. I used to fuck with him and say, hey, Pop, the aliens. And he would always joke to me, just watch the sky. Just watch the sky. But I don't know what he did.
You ever hear of like a government, very supposedly secret agency with like top level clearance called like Yankee White?
No,
Yankee White is supposed to be like the top of the top. Like it's either Yankee White or Yankee Blue. I think Yankee White.
So there is. So it's really weird because growing up as a kid, like, you know, we all think, you know, your father's in the military, blah 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 blah. But like all his friends were like fucking Navy SEALs. And he was a Navy guy, so it made sense. But they were all EOD guys. Always at the house. They were blowing shit up in the yard, you know, doing all kinds of crazy shit. But all of his friends were like super fucking cloak and dagger people. And, you know, when he died, and I should ask my brothers if they got this, but when he died, they presented him with the fucking weirdest metal I've ever seen in my life. It had like the Earth, right? It had 2 rings around it, like Saturn looks. Then it had all of these planets around it, and it was a hologram. And it just said distinguished, you know, Black World Operations metal. And I asked his wife at the time, who worked for sort of the same company, but in a different sort of aspect, what that metal is. She goes, well, your dad worked in the Black World. And I said, what the fuck is that? And she wouldn't say anything else. And I'll never forget, I ran into a Navy SEAL who had been retired, who was in Panama and everything. And I said, let me ask you something. I said, my father worked in the Black World. And he just looked at me, just kind of, you know, listening. And he says, what was his rank? I said, Lieutenant Commander, Vietnam, Silver Star, Bronze Star recipient, Black World Operations. And he just said, kid, your dad was something special. And I'm just going to leave it at that. You know, he wouldn't even talk about it. So I don't know what he did. But I know that The Bronze Star is no fucking joke.
Right.
No fucking joke.
As far and again, I don't get into the whole thinking the government was behind 9/11 to that extent.
Right.
But did you ever see the Pull It video on YouTube? Do you know what I'm referring to? This is interesting. Okay, so, and I don't know how this is still up. So you know how that one tower went down later in the day and nobody was in it and it collapsed? Okay, there is some old Jewish guy that owned that building or owned the lease to the building.
Right.
This is on YouTube, Jeff. You should pull it up while we're talking. You could find it easy. Just type in Pull It video on YouTube. Anyways, this old Jewish guy that owned the matter he's Jewish, owned the building, was talking about all the fire damage, the smoke damage that caused the other tower. And he said, once we assessed all the damage and knew it was just like unretrievable, like they couldn't save the building with all the smoke damage, he said that's when we decided to
blow it up.
And this is on YouTube.
Yeah. Even my father said that. He said that was controlled detonation.
Yeah,
100%.
And that's interesting because the government still says no, it was from the fire.
Well, there's videos you can watch that you hear pop, pop. You can hear the explosions.
Rebecca loves this stuff, man. She's all into this.
Plus, you got to think jet fuel does not melt steel.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So
that
it was. I think it was more a symptom of we were caught asleep at the wheel. You don't know what's going on. You obviously have just lost. How many did we lose? 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, whatever it was. At 9/11.
Something like over 3. I know over 3,000 total.
So if you have another plane that's heading that direction, you cannot accept for 1 second another plane to hit another tower. So you have to do what you have to do.
Rebecca, I know that sometimes people don't want to come on, but this is right up your alley from everything I'm reading. You should look like you got a lot to share with this, and you seem very knowledgeable.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. And I think too, not to get conspiratorial about it, because that's kind of like a different show that I do, but you have to look at, for every action, there is an equal reaction, right? Sure. What did we do right after that? We go
invade Afghanistan.
Right. But most importantly, it started as invading Afghanistan, but what did it end up really being?
Then it ended up in Iraq and Bush.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem. And when they lied to the American public saying that they had weapons of mass destruction, they were feeding the war machine. You know what I mean? And that's where I sort of listen. The government has things they have chips that they can insert as big as a dick hole into your wall and listen to everything you say. And you can't find a 6'6" fucking Middle Eastern guy in a cave. You can't. It turns out he's living in a fucking house, and everybody knows he's there.
Yeah, and for me, I'm
sure
what makes me upset with the whole thing in Afghanistan and Iraq, I think those two wars were pointless, to be honest, because it was reported that half of those guys were from Saudi Arabia. Half of those guys, but we're allies with Saudi Arabia, so we can't do anything. Like, we can't outright say, "Were you guys supporting these guys?" and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that brings up a great point, because if you didn't the Saudis didn't they murder a fucking reporter?
Yes.
Khashoggi.
Yeah, Khashoggi.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they got caught doing it. And what did we do about it?
Nothing.
Exactly. Do you want to know why we did nothing about it? And do you want to know why we do nothing about Israel?
Money in cahoots, oil, shit,
Money and oil.
I disagree with going into Iraq. They should have never done that, but I don't disagree with Afghanistan. You cannot, and again, I do believe that bin Laden was behind the terrorists. You cannot allow an attack like that to happen on American soil and not.
No, but you attack the people.
But going into Iraq was a major.
No. I listen. I'm a flag waver, but I'm a military guy, but at the same time, attack the motherfuckers that did it. If you find out that 14 of the 19 are from Saudi Arabia, you have some questions to ask. And ask yourself this. This is just throwing it out there, and then I'm going to shut up about this. Why is it that 18 members of bin Laden's family were flown out of this country that day by the CIA?
Well,
don't you think a couple of questions should, when every airport was shut
I
down,
didn't know that, but
the president couldn't even land at the fucking airport, but they were all put onto a fucking a jetliner and flown to the Mideast. Why? What you don't stop to question one or two of them about, hey, motherfucker, where's your daddy? You know what I mean? And it's the thing is, this country, I'm going to compare this to MobTube. You guys ready for this? You guys love this. People on MobTube are very quickly to call people their friends after a couple of times of letting them be on their show. Then they turn into be a real fucking piece of shit. And the war begins. America gave money to Pablo Escobar. They gave weapons to Pablo Escobar. They gave bin Laden weapons to fight the Russians. We gave drugs and allowed Noriega to do what he did. At what fucking point do we ask our government, I think you're kind of a bad judge. You got a bad judgment flaw, because everybody you seem to fucking trust fucks us in the ass.
Yeah, and then people, and Jeff, for me, and this is where people are surprised what's happening in Colombia with those two rebel groups. To me, it's not surprising when we destabilize that area with Escobar. What do you expect to happen?
And that's a great point. It's just like when, our president now says, well, we're going to use the American military to go into Mexico and stop the cartels. That's not going to end well for the U.S. military. Sorry. Listen,
the one thing I'll say in closing about that is, with the going in Iraq, Dick Cheney was a real scumbag. He's the one that profited probably the most.
Halliburton, of course.
There you go. I mean,
Halliburton.
They wanted to go in there.
There is a lot of money.
What the hell did they think when they took Saddam out and the whole government? What did they think? There wasn't going to be a powder keg? Of people trying to. What a disaster that was. Man.
Well, and that's why, believe it or not, this is something that I've learned in the last 3 years. And especially when you go overseas, I've been to, I think, 20 different countries, and you really understand what this country looks like from the other side when you're on the other side of the world.
Sure.
And I never thought that the American news system lied to us. I always thought, hey, we got the most honest news, in comparison to South Korea. Yeah, we do. But it wasn't until the last 12 or so years that this country's news became warped. And then I realized, my father used to tell me all the time, he goes, don't believe shit they say. They have plot points they want out. And so think about it. They fooled the American public for fucking almost 50 years that JFK was killed by a fucking nut in a fucking library. We helped Gaddafi get killed.
Yeah.
So it's like it's in this country's
nature.
We allowed them to get. Yeah,
Hillary want to destabilize countries for our profit.
Of course. Right. 100%. 100%. And this not to get into the Israel shit, but what people don't realize is Israel owns a lot of our equity. A lot of this country's monetary value and their gains and their real estate is directly tied to Israel. That's why they're not about to shit on Israel. And there are rumors. Get this. I just came across this the other day. People are now saying they believe the Mossad was involved in killing Kennedy.
That what?
The Mossad.
Israeli intelligence.
Which are by and large and far the greatest counterintelligence agency and most deadly in the world. Now, if we take that information, that sort of changes the narrative for me. That kind of makes a little sense for me. So I
never heard of that one.
That's That's what I've heard. That the Mossad was
Guys, if you can hear me, my connection's totally fucked. All I
hear
do
you.
is walk down the hallway. So
I see you're fine. You look fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce. I can't hear anything. It's bing, bing, bing. Yeah, I can't hear you guys though. It's like bing, bing, bing. It's fucking. All I did is walk down the hallway. But and I got to get up for work tomorrow. But listen, this was a good time and a good conversation. So I'll catch up with you guys later.
All right.
All right, brother. Be safe.
Anyway,
that's a new one. I never. What you just said, that Mossad might have been responsible for Kennedy. Was
that
Kennedy?
would make that's the one that I've been kind of researching behind the scenes. That's the one that I can't disqualify, because that makes so much sense to me. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but that's often sort of kind of been the rumor. Let me go to the chat for just a few seconds, just because I would love for Jeff to do a podcast with Francis on one side and Gravano on the other. Yeah, that's never going to happen. What happened?
It happened once and didn't work the other time.
Let's see. I would love for Jeff. Okay, read that one. Let me go up here. Rebecca. Footage shows detonation charges up and down the building inside job. Yeah, well, at that point, it's always, unfortunately, historically, what it's always going to come back to is we were asleep at the wheel. They were warned about this shit. They knew this shit was coming on. They may not have known specifically. Yeah. And that's the one thing that honestly scares the shit out of me about this administration now. If you cut the very people that are doing the counterintelligence, what the fuck does that mean? And I don't.
He wants to become an authoritarian. That's what it is.
Well, and that's my belief too. I try not to get into the whole political realm of all of that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just think that I'll say this, and the Trump supporters that are in here will not like me saying this, but I'm going to be very honest. They love him not because he's a good human being, not because he cares about you or your problems. He says shit we all want to say, but we don't have the balls to say it. And the problem,
I'm a Trump person, but I agree with you.
Right. And I think that what is going to be the historical viewpoint 20 years from now is going to be, holy shit, what the fuck did he do? Because it's not so much that he's doing things that are terrible, awful, horrible, abhorrent. I'm not going down that road. What I'm simply saying is, when you have somebody that bucks the system so much and says, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want, that has huge consequences, not right now, but 5 years from now, 6 years from now. And so,
well, hold on. I'll be
Kennedy like that too. Did Kennedy have that? Like, was Kennedy like? Was Kennedy in a sense like Trump, where he would say stuff that?
I think listen. Democrats will scream at me for saying, oh, well, Kennedy kind of was like Trump. He was, but he wasn't. His initiatives were like Trump's. They were out of the box, brand new, against sort of what the norm was, but he wasn't as vocally terse as Trump is. I give Trump a lot of credit for the shit he says and does. I mean, what he says, he does. My problem is, if objectively speaking, when you have someone that leads a country that doesn't care who he angers, who he pisses off, because my word is gold, what I'm going to do, that's great for America, because that's Americana. Let's be honest. That's fucking Americana. That's how we live and breathe in this country. That's right. You defend us. You do this. The problem is, it's not being done for the benefit of the people. It's being done for the benefit of the ego. And that's what's wrong.
And his oligarchy friends.
Well, listen, I mean, every president has had friends that they shouldn't have had, right? Like Kennedy's banging broads on his desk every other day, right? Hanging out with mob guys.
Bill Clinton.
Right. Bill Clinton. So for me, when people try to monopolize their hatred for Trump by saying this and that, I say, well, no, not really. He's really no different than anybody else, because at the end of the day, here is the truth. Republicans don't give a fuck about you. Democrats don't give a fuck about you. They are in a whole entire elite system we're never going to be in. And if you think that they give a shit that your Social Security is going to be taken away or you're going to have to struggle, they don't care. They don't. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't expect them to give a shit about my problems. You know what I mean? So I'm not a Trump guy, obviously, but I'm also not a Democrat. I'm just kind of like,
You're in the middle.
Yeah, we need something new. We need something new and fresh. And I think that what Trump represents for people, because I always hear this argument with people say, people that like Trump are fucking nutcases. And no, they feel like they're finally being represented by their constituency in a way they want to scream. And that's what it is. People can't wrap their Democrats for the life of them couldn't figure this out. It's because great example, perfect example of this. Kamala Harris gets out. We're going to win. We're going to do this. We're going to win. But what the fuck are you going to do? Like, you still haven't called Joe Biden a fucking hapless fucking fall asleep in the chair. Right. You know what I mean? But then you get Trump the first time he ran. He's the first time they're having a political debate. And the lady, I think it was on NBC or ABC, the lady says to him, Mr. Trump, you once said that all women are fat, ugly pigs. And he goes, no, just Rosie O'Donnell. I laughed my ass off because he said what everybody had been wanting to say for a long time.
Yeah, and this is why I want Mark Cuban to run for the Democrats, because he's saying what my generation wants to say, but we can't. Like,
well, and that's the problem with like politics, right? Like everybody that goes to the rallies, like great. Like I went to an anti-Trump rally hosted by Alec Baldwin. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I did that the first time he ran because I wasn't a fan of Trump. Because I live in this city where Trump, I know, you know, he did some shady shit, but all politicians do. He's not the only one, right? But I think from a perspective of, I don't think people love the message, but don't understand where the message is really coming from. And that's sort of the problem. If you can be,
they like the message, but they don't like the messenger.
I think that's it. I think that's it. And I think ultimately what's going to end up happening down the line is we've witnessed 2 incidents already. If he goes a certain direction with some things, you're going to see a third one. I'm telling you. You know, a third attempt, because listen, here's the thing. You think people like Lindsey Graham and all these Republicans that are the cheer boys and cheer girls of Trump, do you think that they really truly like him? Or do you think they're placating him because he has power? They're placating him because he has power.
No,
right?
This is why I don't understand. Lindsey Graham hated him from the beginning, yet he...
Right.
Sorry, I turned it into a political thing.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's crazy for me. Like half of this stuff that we're talking about is an interconnected thing. The U.S.
Right.
The U.S. The people in power want the normal citizens to be uneducated and not know what's happening. That's why they have to keep everything so secret. What is it called? In top secret, like these redacted files, because they don't want the citizenry to turn on them.
Well, no, and you're right about that, and that's across the board with everything. Aliens.
Yeah, but they got the big thing about you look at the right hand, you can't see what the left hand is doing.
Right.
So,
the government at the end of the day, none of these people care about you. None of these people care about you. They're greedy.
It's an act that they're putting up. Basically saying that they want to do stuff, but they don't really want to.
So here's something. Let me address this, and then I got to get away from the political shit, because you know what? There's me and a lot of people. I may not like Donald Trump, but guess what? He is my president, regardless of whether I like it or not.
I agree.
And you have to support who's running the country. Now, if he puts us in a situation, the very ones that got him elected are the ones that will decapitate him. Plain and simple. The Republicans will go after him. You watch. It'll happen, because it's a game. Think of it as organized crime. It's all politicking. You know, he's got everybody cheering him on over here, but you damn well know behind the scenes, Lindsey Graham's like, he's a fucking asshole. Let's get rid of him. But they can't. He's too powerful, right? All right. So Zelensky said he's going to resign. What did Trump have on him? I don't think it's I don't even think it's Trump having anything on him, because I think you could also twist that around and say, what did Zelensky have on Trump? It's not that. It's the fact that Zelensky is in a war-torn country. He knows they can't ultimately outlast Russia at the end of the day. And if Trump is just saying to him, this shit will all end if you just stop, what responsible leaders do is they wave the flag and say, you know what? If this is going to stop my people from being murdered, that's what I'm going to do. That's what you're supposed to do. Whether or not it has anything to do with the fact that Trump said, you're not getting another tank, you're not getting another bullet from us, that may have a lot to do with it too. Because you can only, you can only fight a war when the ally that you have is supporting you with arms to continue that war. The second that ally says, well, we're just going to take everything away.
And I want to say
what
something.
Do you do?
Too.
What do you do?
Well, when it comes to this Zelensky thing, also, I've been saying this from the beginning. There has to be, what's his name? Putin must have P-tapes or something on Trump. That's why he's supporting everything Putin is doing. Like,
so it's okay. It's one of a couple of things, and people that don't like Trump are going to disagree with me. I don't think Trump likes him. I think Trump knows how to play him, but I also think Putin knows how to play him. It's a chess match. That's all.
Wait, Trump?
Yeah.
The guy who barely passed college is outsmarting a guy who's been in the FSB for his whole career. Really?
Yeah. Listen. He's smarter than people. I think he's a lot more crazy. Listen, he's the first president we ever had that's a gangster.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Straight up. But no matter how you want to argue it, he's a gangster in every stretch of the imagination. I would personally, like, there are things that scare me about what he does, but in a way, I feel a little safer with him near the button than I do Biden. But then again, here's the other thing, and this is the last I'm going to say on it because I don't like politics, but doesn't matter whether we like him, doesn't matter who has what on who. It comes down to this. If you think that Donald Trump really runs this country on his own, you're out of your fucking mind. President
more than he did Biden.
Yeah, well, yeah, but what I mean is that presidents are figureheads. They don't run the country.
It's the rich people.
Correct. It's the wealthy that control the country. It's the big businesses that control the country. They do things based on that. And that's just the way the country works. And that's why I don't get into conversations like this, because I can see good and bad on all sides. I'm a pretty level-headed guy. Listen, Biden did some things that I think were great. He did a lot of things I don't fucking agree with, which is one of the reasons why I did not vote Democrat. I didn't even vote. I'm going to be honest. I didn't vote this election. I didn't want to vote for Trump. And I wasn't about to vote for Democrats because I want something new. You know, I for once, I would love this country to have a conversation that did not involve gay rights, this and that and the third. Why don't we, instead of sending another $100 million to the Ukraine, I don't know, eradicate homelessness? Why don't we try that?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I have, is that this country always has to be the fucking poster boy for solving the world's fucking problems. We just don't have to do that. And I think that's what Trump's thought process is. And that's what I agree with him on is, listen, we don't have to do this. We've been protecting you for 50 fucking years. Protect yourself for once. I get it. I get where he's coming from. But at the same time I say that, there's also this politicizing and strategizing, and the red, white, and blue stands for protection and honor. So you're kind of in a catch-22. No matter how much you want to say, go fuck yourself, get bombed, I don't give a shit, you still kind of got to, play the game. But let's just end this conversation because it's going to get me demonetized.
Sorry.
No, and the reason why I say that is because I personally think everything that's come out of my mouth in the last 30 minutes is fair. I think it's fair.
Yes.
But there will be those who will hear what I say, twist it, and turn it into, oh, he hates Trump, he's a piece of shit, this, that. And that's not the way I see things, because no matter who the president is, guess what? I support them. They run my country. I may not like what he does, but guess what? I can't change it either. So I would rather be a good American and support while I can until he does something so fucking disdainful that I can't. Does him being a felon bother me? No, I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck. I really don't care at the end of the day what his criminal bullshit is, because I happen to believe, as much as people that don't like me are going to jump on this, I think the FBI was weaponized against him. I really have always thought that. I'm not saying what he did was right, but if you're going to do, and a good example of this, okay, the Democrats were all about, oh, Trump's a felon. Every time they mention Trump, well, he's a 12-time convicted felon, blah, 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 blah. But who pardoned their own fucking son and their whole entire family on their last day in office?
Ding, ding. I agree.
Right. So my point when I say that is, you can't point the finger at Trump when you got shit in your closet and you made sure to clear your own son's name. You know, Biden should have never done that. He tarnished his legacy by doing it. He should have let his son suffer the ramifications, because that's America. But like I said, now what you're giving to American citizens now is the right to go into a court of law and say, well, Donald Trump didn't go to prison. He got 12 felonies. Joe Biden's son had 4 felonies and didn't go to prison. Why am I going to prison? It's a valid argument. It's a valid argument.
If we do stuff that Trump is doing, we would get thrown in jail right away. That's
100%, because we're not rich.
Yeah, but then again, like you say, in broad terms, is he or she who lives in a glass house shouldn't throw stones. No, and everybody is the first one that throws stones.
Well, right.
In general.
The problem is, and this is the truth, if you're white and you're wealthy, you are far ahead of everybody else in the game. That's just the truth. If I was a multimillionaire, I could look at how long Diddy got away with his bullshit. Look at how long he got away with that, right?
I hope he goes to jail for life.
Right.
I really do.
He got away with it for years. Everybody knew it, but because he had money and he had power, he could control whether you went to work.
And everybody knows he might have been the one responsible for Tupac too.
Well, right. Everybody knows that. And it's just it's a matter of time, because Keefe D rolled on him. See, I don't know if any of you guys have followed this shit, but Keefe D is the one that was involved in Tupac's murder, right?
From day one.
Right. Keefe D on Vlad's show basically admitted to being involved in it, setting it all up at the behest of P. Diddy. Then what ended up happening was Keefe D gets arrested by the feds. He signed an immunity deal with the feds, meaning they could not prosecute him for anything. You only sign a fucking immunity deal when you're ratting people out, right? What happens? Keefe D got arrested, about 6 months ago, right? Ask me the next question. Why is Keefe D being held in New Jersey prison right now?
Because he didn't sign immunity in New Jersey? No immunity?
Because he's going to testify against Diddy at a much bigger trial.
Holy crap.
And that's sort of the thing, right? Listen, the government is not going to knock on Christian's door and say, hey, Christian, how you doing? You know Jeff Canarsie, right? Well, yeah, I listened to his show. Well, we're going to give you immunity just because we want to give you immunity. You're going to say, why are you giving me immunity? I've done nothing wrong. You only get immunity when you're telling on somebody, right? So this is going to branch off into something much fucking
way bigger.
Way bigger.
Oh, he is.
You're going to see a lot of other Hollywood people. J-Lo's got to be shaking in her boots.
What is it? I think I heard something about Ashton Kutcher's done too.
He was at some of those little get-togethers. You know, listen, I don't know about you guys, but even if I'm rich and famous, and first of all, when you're rich and famous, you can pretty much get laid at will, right? If not, you have enough money to go pay for it. If I walk into somebody's house and there's 4 guys and they're all banging women, you know what? See you later. I'm not even staying for that. That doesn't even interest me, right? But people like J-Lo, who smuggled the gun out of the fucking bar after the guy was shot by P. Diddy at the bar, these are big problems. So, and it all comes back to, like, I always try to connect all of the dots, and what we're talking about is conspiracies. Everything in life, it really is a conspiracy. And for people who like Trump, they're never going to see through his bullshit until he's gone, and then they'll start to like say some negative shit. But no matter who's in office, they're not really controlling anything. They really aren't. They never have it. The Rockefellers, those are the ones that control everything in this country, and it's the way it's always going to be. That's why I always, when I would get like political with my father, he would start laughing at me because he's like, you do realize like they don't really do shit. Like legitimately, like, yes, they make policies and stuff like that, but controlling certain things, they can't. There's a much bigger, shadier group that does. He says, you getting angry over what you see him doing, you're getting angry at the wrong person. You got to get angry at the people that are dictating to him what should be done. Those are the ones. So, you know, like I said, this went down a fucking alley. I did not
and
want to
that
go
was my
down.
fault.
That's all right. But I am going to end the show because it's been about 2 hours and I try to keep it right around 2 hours. Guys, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm going to, Christian, I got your address and everything. I'm going to get that sent out to you tomorrow. I promise.
Yeah. Answer my email when you get a question too, when you get a chance.
All right. Definitely will, buddy. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, partner. I appreciate it.
All right. Anyway, guys, sorry we went on this whole entire fucking political thing. I hate that, but I'm going to read a couple of more questions. Trump had to deal with the mob. He knows how to deal with these leaders. No, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. You're broke. Money talks in court. If you're not a billionaire, you're going to jail. No, 100%. Money buys the best protection. I think Putin is far more dangerous than Trump realized. I agree with you, David. I think Putin is. But you know, it's just, I don't know. I don't think Trump is as gullible as people think. At least I hope not. Putin is former KGB. Life is meaningless to Putin. He loses thousands of troops. Some areas like Ukraine, the average lifespan is 8 hours in the battlefield. Yeah, that's true too. And listen, if you think that Zelensky stepping down is going to end the bloodshed there, it's not, because he wants to take over Ukraine. That's what Putin has been trying to do. And how great is their military if they haven't steamrolled Zelensky by now? You know, so who knows the way it's going to end up. Anyway, for all those that donated, all those that showed up, once again, I apologize for the political shit. I hate that, just because I'm in the middle and I don't agree with everybody. And I really wanted this to be a mob show. Hopefully we got enough mob stuff out there for you guys. In the meantime, please donate if you can. Hit the thanks button. Give me a super thanks if you can. If you have not joined Mob Talk Radio, go to mobtalkradioshow.supercast.com. Join our podcast. 3 hours, 4 to 5 shows a month. Good material as well. If you do not watch The Diner, go to our YouTube page, go to our playlists, click on The Diner and watch the show we talked about last night, God versus Satan. Very interesting stuff as well. We also have a horror podcast, which I'm going to start doing again. I got to stop with these podcasts because doing 2 is hard enough. 3 is great. If you guys are interested in the paranormal, if you're interested in the Loch Ness Monster, what we do on the Tales of the Night horror podcast is we talk about serial killers, parapsychology. We talk about everything. We talk about the psychology of serial killers, everything. And we have videos in that. So like when I'm talking about Loch Ness, I show videos of some shit that I just can't fucking explain. And if any of you guys have been watching this show, you know that I played that one wolf video. I think it was like before I got sick, where that huge wolf attacked the dog. Most of our horror stuff that we do, there's so many videos to look at while we're doing the show, because it's my thing of come on here, talk about it, but let me show you that. And in final, I just wanted to thank everybody for keeping in touch with me, continuing to come here. And the best and Small Down family, I got it. I'll write it down. I promise you. The best thing you can do for me is donate, share, subscribe. That's it. Just share my stuff. That's the best thing you can do for me. And you can reach out to us at mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com. As well, if you like the horror stuff, go watch some of our stuff. Hit our playlist. If you're into hockey, we do a hockey podcast too. So I guess that's 4 podcasts we do. But I would like to get into the horror stuff again because I find it interesting. But the way that we do the horror stuff is we give you all the facts, we show you some photos, and then we bring in videos to talk about, okay, well, what the fuck is this? I'm telling you, I love the horror stuff. It's just that my time is so limited. But I think I'm going to start doing that up again as well. So I'll end up being live three times a week. We'll be live with The Diner on Saturday nights, always at 8:30. Mob Talk Radio will probably be always now from here on out, Sundays at 8 or 8:30. And I'll find probably like a Tuesday night to do the horror podcast. But anyway, reach out to me, mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com. If you like the horror stuff, got any ideas, any show ideas, any suggestions, let me know. Once again, have a great weekend, everybody. And I'm glad to be back and feeling better. And talk to you soon.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. In a city that never sleeps and find I'm #1, top of the list, king of the hill, #1. These little town blues, make a brand new start of it in old New York. And if I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York.